Convergent science is a very important new direction in science, and I think it really means combining different disciplines into one overall scientific study. And I think it's very important for future directions, outcomes, and commercial development. There are many examples already of convergent science. The cochlear implant, bionic eyes, spinal cord repair, deep brain stimulation for epilepsy at a macro level, and at a more fundamental level we have the possibility of 3D printing of hearts, lungs, kidneys and so on, and even at a micro level of biomembranes and biomaterials and biocomposites.
When you think about the Human Genome Project, it's genetics, it's molecular biology, biochemistry, and it is very much information technology. With the enormous amount of data that is generated, you've got to have computational skills and bioinformatics to make sense of it. Today, the young people are going to have to be expert in a number of disciplines if they're going to get the main benefit out of this convergent science, out of this melding and meeting of the disciplines.
I think because convergent science is so important in modern science, we need to be aware that we need to teach in a different way to encourage people to be able to go across scientific barriers, to break down scientific silos. So I think that needs to start at school. Certainly by the time we get to university, we need to be very actively encouraging transdisciplinary, there's another word for you, transdisciplinary thinking and rewarding it. So at the same time, we have to keep developing very strong specialists in subjects, but specialists who can work with people who are broader and can cross the discipline. So I think we've got to learn to teach differently and reward differently.
Now, scientists have a bit of a tendency to hide in their little silos. I don't want that. I want the scientists to come out and also be communicators, because of course their work is shaping the future. And if their work is not understood by the public, it won't be supported by the public, and you will get lots of misinformation going, like, for example, the enmity to GM foods and the enmity that I strike quite a lot to immunisation. That is purely due to poor communication through people not having been told the facts as they really are in a clear and direct way. That's where the Convergent Science Network does a brilliant job.
I think it's wonderful that the Convergent Science Network is out there doing what it does. In particular, I'm excited by the work through the Graham Clark Oration. For example, this year you had Don Ingber from the Wyss Institute. What a spectacular example of convergent science that he portrayed. A highly funded institute that is bringing together people from all sorts of disciplines, creating technology for discovering new devices and approaches to health in medicine that you wouldn't dream of if it wasn't done through convergent science. They're building like little bodies on a chip so they can process candidate drugs and see how they will work in this safe environment rather than putting into human beings, and get a safety profile and efficacy profile. It's just stunning work that they're doing, and the fact that that is being brought to the awareness of the broader community, I think, is one of the most important things that the network can be doing.
I'm Terry Speed, and up until very recently I used to be head of bioinformatics at the Walter Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research, but I have passed that role on to someone else. I see bioinformatics as the application of mathematics, statistics, computing methods to molecular data. In recent years there's been an enormous explosion of molecular data, and you need special tools, special insights, special algorithms to get the knowledge out of it. Typically it's generated by machines, so we need to do a lot of initial processing and then fine-tuned processing so that we get, if you like, knowledge from data. But the data is always molecular. And this is what's new, because it builds on insights going back to the 1950s, the nature of the DNA molecule. One example would be cancer stem cells. There was a group in the Institute, a group of biological medical researchers who have identified a category of breast cancer stem cells. So if you can imagine, the cancer grows, and if you kill almost all of it, but you don't kill the stem cell with your treatment, it'll regenerate, because the stem cell has and there might be very, very few of these. So somehow killing almost every cell in your tumour is not good enough. So these people were studying stem cells for several years. And of course we're interested in the molecular characteristics of the stem cells, which involves generating data on the stem cells and then trying to understand what it is that makes a stem cell from a molecular perspective. And that involves comparing the stem cell, the internal workings of the stem cell, we'll call it the gene expression profile, to other cells that are better understood. And that was a bioinformatic task that one of my colleagues, Professor Gordon Smythe, rose to the challenge and found ways of looking at the stem cells and comparing them to other categories of cells. So it's almost like saying, you know, here's a novel cell, which of the more traditional cells is it most similar to? And well, this was not a totally straightforward problem, but he found a very good solution, and they got a very satisfactory insight into the stem cells.
My name's Mark Dawson. I'm a clinician scientist, and I currently work at the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre. Our remit has largely been to try and understand how blood cancers develop, how this abnormal epigenetic regulation contributes to the development of these cancers, and then try and correct this process using various drugs. Science, by and large, is now a multidisciplinary approach, even though our central question is understanding how blood cancers develop and how we can better diagnose or treat these cancers. None of this would be possible without the skills that people bring from other disciplines. This kind of convergent science we see in our everyday practice. For instance, we have mathematicians who work with us, and mathematicians are critical to this process because the analysis of some of our very big data sets, analysis of whole genomes, of whole epigenomes, of whole proteomes, all of this requires very special skills that by and large people trained in mathematics are now able to apply to biology. Similarly, one of our greatest ambitions is to generate small molecules that change the natural history of some of these aggressive cancers. This cannot be done in isolation and without the help and the convergent knowledge of the chemists that we work closely with. Medicinal chemistry has provided us with an opportunity to really look at what we previously thought we were not able to actually attract or target with small molecules. And we've really changed that. We've changed that on its head.
My name's Jane Geldin. I'm a clinical researcher with the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. I'm doing my PhD at the moment on the use of virtual reality to improve hand and arm function for kids who've had acquired brain injuries. I'm also a senior OT clinician within the rehab service here at the Royal Children's. So I work with children who have movement disorders. The kids that I see predominantly are affected by stroke or traumatic brain injury or some other illness or injury to the brain. We also see children who've had cerebral palsy and who come to see us for rehabilitation interventions to improve their hand and arm function. I guess what we see is that kids often need to spend a lot of time having therapy, and sometimes that's not terribly engaging, so we're looking for new ways to engage them in therapy and to encourage them to complete rehab programs. We've come up with some ideas as to work with a technology company to think about how can we create games that actually get the kids to do the movements that we want them to do in therapy to improve their function. We're obviously bringing the clinical skills and expertise and experience and our knowledge of working with children with movement disorders through the age span, and the technology company we're working with are absolutely bringing the technology and the skills about writing the programs and writing the algorithms that make what we want to do actually work. What we're hoping to achieve is better long-term outcomes, so we're hoping that children will be able to throw and write and catch and play better through having better technologies and better understanding of their movement and of their rehab needs. Recently, the product that we've developed was nominated to present at a technical conference in Silicon Valley. So Health 2.0 brings together developers and people interested in how technology interfaces with health. It's particularly a US-based thing, but people send in their ideas, and then the top 10 ideas got nominated to present within the conference. We were chosen to be one of those, and so based on a 3-minute presentation of what we're doing, our product was chosen as the winner. It shows that there's a lot of interest in the US and more broadly about how health and technology interface, and the convergence of those things is really important, and I guess it supports our partnership so far with technology companies and working together to develop really interesting and innovative solutions.